So guys, I was actually flying a little bit yesterday, finishing up my grind to the J10, and I actually came into an encounter that was good enough for me to make a video about and make a point about aggressiveness while you are flying, or how you actually put yourself into a battle, and how important aggressiveness is actually is important, right? So we're gonna take a look first, and then we're gonna talk about it later. So here we were flying with the J10. The situation here was that the target was actually just using the airfield to just basically camp, and he was killing a whole bunch of us. It was the last guy in the team. He was outnumbered by 4 to 1 or something, but he was killing a lot of our friendlies just by staying there and flying high and basically being defensive and being very smart about it. But I'm gonna show to you guys that even in a situation like this, aggressiveness while you are flying can be a good thing if it used correctly in the right points. How you can actually use your missiles to push the enemy into making mistakes and leaving the umbrella that he was using to basically camp and destroy everybody. He was actually going to win this battle, but the thing is, I really needed to do this. So the first thing that I did, I climbed to get distance for my missile, energy for my missile. I found the target, he just landed, and I fired one missile. And of course, I cranked to the left, maintaining the soft lock there to help my missile. What am I doing here? I'm pushing him to go to a defensive position before he even tries to do anything. So that way, of course, he's actually trying to climb and get energy. He will not have the range to fire on me because he just took off. And this gives me the advantage that I needed. I fired the first. Of course, my missile went active. And with that, he will know about that because of the RWR. See, he's going defensive now, and he's going to start doing something that gives me the option of use this aggressiveness to decrease the range between us and push him into a defensive measure every single time he points into my direction, making him lose time while I'm getting closer to him, and always pushing him into a defensive. He almost doesn't have any type of aggressiveness or of chance to actually be offensive about it, because I'm just pushing. And this is how you can use in the early stages of a match, for example, your Fox 3 missiles to push an enemy into a defensive position, and don't let them actually be offensive against any of your friendlies, right? So here is another example. I fired way before he turned. He just turned and shot. My missile was already active, so he had to just be careful. He had to maintain a defensive position. Of course, I'm wasting missiles, but I'm pushing and pushing and pushing him into making a mistake that it's basically just being defensive, 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 so much defensive that he has to keep running and running and running and getting away from the airfield that he was actually using as a cover. So I'm pushing him to the edge of the battle with the missiles. Of course, I made a crank again due to the missile coming towards me. So he had one shot at me like that, and my missile went active before he was trying to get a lock, but I cranked, and because of the radar on the J10, I can crank really hard. So he didn't have the time. He had to go evasive again and turn around before he got shot down. So he didn't even have a chance of actually firing onto me another missile. And I'm already at 18 kilometers, so I'm pushing and pushing and pushing, and I'm making going defensive, staying in low altitude, not having one chance of actually going towards me. I fire another missile because I know this is the only target left, so I can waste a little bit of missiles. But yeah, see, I'm pushing him already 15 kilometers away from the airfield that he was actually using to kill my entire team before. So I'm already in a point of very, very much advantage over here. Obviously, at the start, I was in a big advantage of just having the higher start point because he had to land, but I was landed as well, and I just had the time, to climb a little bit more. But yeah, see, there is 2 missiles that went active on him, so he cannot turn. If he turns, the missile will get him. Will get him, right? And I'm just keep pushing. I put my nose down to get a little bit more speed. I notice that he's going to try to turn, and I just fire again. This is too short of a range to get anything out of him, you know. He's gonna get killed because it's too close. I just crank, chaff, and that's it. So see how effective flying in an aggressive manner can actually be in a point where the enemy had the advantage before and was killing my friends. You know, he was killing a lot of our teammates, and to be honest, the other guy was gonna get killed to him as well because he was just flying in a different manner, trying to get closer to the airfield without using the range or the speed of the missile that you have, right? So it's something that you always have to understand. In top tier battles, guys, there are 2 key things that you gotta understand. This is actually a type of philosophy that the aviation business always use, right? Which is fly ahead of your airplane. This is one of them. You gotta fly ahead of your airplane. What that means is basically try to predict the next move of your aircraft. And in this case, since it's technically a game about a simulation of a combat, you gotta think ahead of what the enemy will try to do normally, right? Of course, you can always get caught off guard, but in that case, for example, I was just pushing and pushing and pushing, but when I did the push and fired the missile, I tried to be smart about it. I wasn't just going straight to the enemy. I go in a defensive maneuver, which is the crank. You know, of course, in a J10, in a MiG-29 SMT, a Yak-141, you can push the crank into very high angles, since the radar gimbal limits are very, very high. Of course, if it was an F-16, if it was an Su-27, an F-15, it would be a lower angle, meaning that you would be less of an offensive position, but defensive position. But at the same time, the missile would already be in the air, and it would already go into an active position before his missile came into an active position onto us, meaning that you could still be effective on, you know, defending it and actually being perpendicular to the missile that he's firing and use the chaff anyway, because your missile was going to go active before his anyway, right? Because you were so like pushing and pushing and pushing until he makes a mistake. What is his mistake? At 10 kilometers, he tried to go offensive. He didn't have the position to go on an offensive. I was way faster. I had missiles onto him. He just didn't have that option. He had to maintain a defensive position, try to run away, try to get speed, to maybe go in a lower altitude and use the ground to actually make the turnaround and make me overshoot in a dogfight. That's basically his only option there, because I was pushing so much. But what he did is actually try to go in an offensive position in a wrong situation. Again, you gotta predict the future a little bit of your aircraft and your enemy's aircraft, right? And he did that wrong. So it's something very, very, very important. The second thing that you have to worry about here is know your position in the battle. You know, just don't go straight to an enemy and just fire missiles and whatever. You gotta think about it, what you are doing, and like for example, the 2 friendlies that got killed by that guy because he was camping on the airfield did the same mistake. They just went straight to him because they thought he was just going to do nothing. What he was doing is firing missiles, waiting for them to go active, flying over the airfield and turning away, trying to draw them into the umbrella of the air defenses. But guess what? If you fly high enough, you can actually fly above that umbrella, which was something that my friends there, my friendly forces, were not thinking about. I tried to fly high because of that as well, right? So always try to predict a feature, but aggressiveness always compensates if used correctly, and this is the proof of that. This can be used in many situations, this line of thinking, but I hope it helps a little bit you flying in top tier, because it really goes to those situations a lot. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe. It means a lot for me. You know, we are almost getting to 40,000, so make sure to subscribe. I see you guys on the next one, And bye guys, leave it a comment down below. See ya, bye.